All right, y'all. Like, share, subscribe. Cash App, $ Winston Spivey. I want to do this part 4 of the documentary series with Diddy, The Reckoning. Thank you for your time. But this is the final part, Blink Again. And I think after this, I want to do a epilogue of all the people that were on the documentary and things like that. I've already spoken on those people before, but you got some details on there that on this one that we didn't really talk about. I guess there were never seen before footage until it actually come out. So, but in the meanwhile, let's focus on this part right here. Excuse me. And if you hadn't looked at it, you should download it and look at on Netflix yourself. Okay, pay like $8 for a whole month. I might see what other movies they have on there. But anyway, it starts out like this, where this is probably in the later 2010s, where Cassie had already broken up with Diddy. I believe that she got to a point where she's had enough. I think the real thing was with her, she wanted to have a career, and hopefully maybe Diddy and her would have a life, and it didn't work out that way. And then we had some of the bad boy crews like Mark Curry or Chopper or some of the ladies in Danity Kane would be, asked and say, what is your sole purpose of being with Diddy? Is it her to be an XCS worker? Because it seemed like that's the way she came off. I mean, it's like she wasn't happy with him, but at times and things, but he couldn't live without him. All right. Because once again, I said this in part 3, maybe because she was in fear of her life, maybe her career will be over. And then, she was strung out on that stuff, on pills and crap. And it costs a lot of money to get all the doggone, get an endless supply like Diddy, because he had so much doggone money. Now, once again, around this time, Diddy, I think he was into stuff like, the Revolt TV, or maybe I think he was looking at social media. He rebranded himself as Love, and he was working with a guy named Little Rod. Now, one thing I didn't know about Little Rod was, and I spoke with him about him several times on this channel, that he was a guy that could play all five instruments. He was a producer, and I guess he had the potential to be a producer of the year. And this is what Diddy said. He claims Diddy said that he was going to make sure that he was nominated upon the album coming out and all that, which didn't happen. Now, in the midst of all that, maybe soon after he was nominated, or actually he won the VMA Lifetime Achievement Award. You could see him, coming out there and thanking, KK and then, Capricorn Clark and things of that nature. But one thing that I saw was, he didn't even, send a shout out. I think he sent a shout out to Biggie's mama. Okay. But, I don't know, like you would think that he would probably say, all the bad boy crew back in the day and things of that nature. And you already know that Biggie's mom, did not like Diddy. She couldn't stand Diddy. So, but I think that Diddy was getting cooked at this time and didn't realize it. Now, I want to talk about Lil Rod again, that the album that came out, and he Diddy promised Lil Rod $250,000. Okay? So I guess usually the way these deals work at that time is they'll get a certain advance, and then they'll make whatever percentage based on record sales. A lot of that's changed now. But that's how it was, before they had like the social media. Well, now they got downloads and that kind of thing. Okay. He said the album came out and he promised him for what, a year or two ago. And he would only end up with $29,000. You know, now this was back in what, 2020, 2021, something like that. This is 2025. We get ready to get into 2026. He said he still ain't got that money. The little $29,000 for all the hard work that he did to help him get that album out. Okay. So I believe Lil Rod, you know, when he got the opportunity, he blackballed him. Okay. Now you have to look at this time or whatever, you know, Cosby, was working on his appeal, that kind of thing. Harvey Weinstein was locked up, you know, R. Kelly was getting ready to get pinched. But, you know, when those guys got reported, once again, a lot of people started coming forward with their stories. All right. So, you know, a lot of people didn't really know all the stuff that, you know, I guess you really didn't, when I said transparency, until you saw the video with Cassie. But one thing that I want to tell you about is, and I said this on previous videos, this comes from Chopper, okay, from I think this group, The Band, on Art of Dialogue. And he went on record as to say that Cassie, okay, there was in a club talking and things like that. Cassie wanted to bury Diddy after they broke up. This was 2018. So she was out to get him, or they was plotting on him back then, because this is what she was telling Chopper, okay, according, I guess there was talk about, you know, that she wanted to turn him in back then, okay? So, you know, after the VMA awards and things of that nature, I know he came out here for a couple of times for some parties. Now, when was this? 2023? When that infamous tape came out, okay, of in the international, him beating up Cassie or kicking her around the hallway and things of that nature. So I think this is when the investigation started to become more profound and started gaining steam, to where beginning of last year in 2024, then they raided the house. That's when they found, you know what I'm saying, the GUNSs and the substances and things of that nature. You know, you learned about Brandon, the DURG mule. And then, you know, next thing you know, what's that, September 16th, you know, they spoke on the arrests out there in Manhattan, things of that nature. Now, I want to back this up to 2018. That was just what I think. I think Trump had something to do with this doggone investigation after, you know, when he got elected in 2016 to be president. You know, Diddy went on record to say, you know, Trump should be eradicated, and was, you know what I'm saying, like white men like him should be, or something to that effect. And I believe that Trump had blackballed him. I believe, you know, between him, the guy that ran out there in Trump's yard or whatever, swinging the flag or whatever, and brought up Diddy, that kind of thing, Diddy and Cassie, okay, at those freak-offs. I also think that Gene Deal was brought in it, okay, Lil Rod. But the way that I think that happened, what happened was, okay, because Trump and Diddy, they were friends or whatever, and Trump could go on record to say, hey, you know, we friends, and I don't know what happened when I got elected, and things of that nature. And I think what it was Trump went Republican, okay, and probably shocked everybody. And I'll be willing to bet that they probably made some deals or whatever, and maybe Trump didn't come through with it and things of that nature. But hey, in the end of the day, this is a guy that Diddy wants to, you know, ask for pardon. I believe it's just what my belief is. I believe that, Gene Deal was brought in there to kind of like to give the blueprint, at the humble beginnings. Kurt Burrows, okay, I'll be sure, okay, because they were there at the beginnings and things of that nature to talk about, uh, Diddy and give the Kirk Burrows to give the blueprint of uh, a bad boy and how it started and all that, okay, and to break off from Uptown Records. Then you got I'll be sure to to talk about their late teens and things of that nature, okay, that he had to live with. Diddy had to live with a friend because his mom kicked him out, or he had to leave because I believe that there was a tumultuous. I believe he got in a fight. Maybe got in a fight with his mom. That's just maybe my belief. Okay, then you get like guys like Roger Bonds. Actually, Roger Bonds, he had a short time in it where he basically spoke after in the 2000s and things of that nature when he knew of Cassie and also, Capricorn Clark was in there that spoke a lot about, her being, I believe, a quasi CEO and things of that nature, and the tumultuous relationship and work relationship, and the ordeal with Kid Cudi. A lot of people believe that she was lying about that kidnapping, and she did, speak on that. She had to testify in court. Okay, so I believe probably with this new regime here, KK, that's Christina Quorum, which she spoke on her. Um, Lil Rod to come in to lay the blueprint of the house because Lil Rod was they were they were working together for like 3 years. He went on record to say that he was DURGS or whatever, and and essayed and that kind of thing, and he also witnessed Diddy's son, okay, when they went in the bathroom, whatever, he hears a boom and he took pictures or whatever of what happened and things like that nature, what happened to somebody. I guess they end up getting into it with someone over, I don't know, probably over some business deal. And he has that evidence and things of that nature that was handled back in about the middle of October. Lil Rod. So he gives the layout of the house. Okay, Capricorn Clark to talk more about the business and things like that, and then they don't talk about it, but Brandon the drug mule, okay, the guy that had the DURGSs and the doggone baby oil with substances, which they once again they didn't talk about, okay, but I think with that, with things like Cash App, because I understand that money was moved around from Cash App, or you have more meticulous records when money was taken out of Diddy's account and things like that, okay, to go to people to go make these runs and fly people out and things of that nature, okay, I believe that once again that Diddy kind of, they kind of caught on after probably, I think it was 20 years in the indictment, but he was doing his dirt way, way before then. And basically at the end, they pretty much said how it all started in the first place. Where Kirk Burrows went on record as to say, hey, you know what? Yeah, he's about beating on women and whatever, beating on people. He did that since back in the day, and you see the violence or, the ordeal that happened at, at City College and all that with the basketball game. Okay. So, it was basically saying that, all this stuff really went on since back then, he really wouldn't change. And I think that, it was really easy to catch on to what Diddy did. And it was one of the things that really caused the fall. So I'm going to, cut it off right there. I want to do an epilogue because I want to talk about, once again, the people that was, in on this. Okay. You pretty much got I don't know, kind of the gist on what, but it's more interesting if you actually look at it. All right. Maybe I may do some reactions on what other people have talked about this documentary and that kind of thing. And there's talk about another sequel. So let me know what you think. Okay. And stay tuned for more content coming. Have a good night.